Hello friends, welcome back to Block Tribe. In the last video, we discussed about what are state variables. State variables are the values which are stored on contract storage. If you have not seen the video, I would recommend to please go through it. Link will be in the description below. Now we look into what are local variables, what are global variables, how to use them, and we'll try to create a small sample function to have a better understanding. What are local variables? Local variables are declared inside function body. So its scope is finite and hence cannot be used outside function body. That's why they are termed as local variables. Local variables are stored in stack, whereas state variables are stored in storage. A question might have come to your mind, why do we actually require local variables in blockchain? So the answer lies in the point below. When you use a local variable, you do not use any gas. What is gas? So gas is basically a transaction fee which you are paying to ethereum when you are storing something on the block. State variables, as they are stored in the contract, you will have to pay some amount of gas which you do not have to pay when you are using local variables. Please note, strings, struct, arrays, mappings are by default used as state variables, and if you are using it in functions, we have to declare them as memory, otherwise the code will keep on giving an error. We'll look into an example how to use that. What are global variables? Global variables are special variables that can be used globally and give information about the transaction and the blockchain property. So example to it is message.sender. This particular function gives address of the sender of the message. Another example would be now. So now will give you the timestamp of the current block, whereas gas left would return you the amount of the gas left for a particular user. What is pure versus view? We have already seen how sample functions are created in Solidity. Now we will see what are the type of functions used in Solidity. Basically, there are two types of functions, pure versus view. A function that does not read or modify the values or variables of the state is called as pure function, whereas view is a function which only reads but does not alter the state of variable defined in the contract. Pure is a function which does not use any variable of the state in that particular contract, whereas view, it uses the variables of state but does not alter them. A basic example of view function is all the getter functions which are created are by default of view type. Now when we have understood the definition of pure versus view, we'll start looking into the code. Let's get started right away using pure versus view while making local and global variables. Let's start by writing a empty contract example, and then so my first point was local variables are declared inside the function body. Now let's start by writing a function set name. Now we would define public and we would say returns. Now please note, it is returns, not return, and returns tells you basically what kind of a value is going to be output from this particular function. So for now we'll take it as string, and that's it. Now we'll define a function, we'll define a variable string name equals to Rahul, and yes, and return name. So ideally this should have been the function. Now as these are local variables, so there are certain restrictions when using local variables for string, struct, arrays, and mappings. So in string, you would have to specifically mention it as memory so that it converts itself into a memory variable rather than a state variable. Now we would also have to tell what kind of return we are doing. So return we are doing of string. So this also needs to specify memory here. So when we have done, we are good to go. But okay, there is one more error which says function state mutability can be restricted to pure. Okay, so we've also learned what is pure, what is view. So we should mention here pure, because we are not changing the value of any variable outside the function or using it. So I'll also give you an example of view. So let's try to deploy this first. If we deploy, we'll see value as Rahul. Now if I just simply put this value outside the function, if I simply put this value outside the function, so this would say, the first thing which it would point out is we cannot use memory here because it is a state variable, and state variables cannot be local variables cannot be deployed outside a function. So we'll have to remove this memory. Now once we have done this, it says it should be of view type. Why? Because now we have started using variable of the state inside a function which is declared as pure, which is again a conflict. So we declare this as view, and we are good to go. Now we'll deploy, and yes, so set name, it says Rahul. So yeah, this is about view pure and how view and pure affects local variables. Now when we have learned about local variables, let's start by learning about how to use global variables. So we'll simply erase this code. We'll start writing function. We'll say calculate, and we'll say public, and we'll say returns. What are we trying to return? We are trying to return the timestamp, and timestamp of the block. So it says return, and return what we are trying to return. We are trying to return block dot timestamp. Okay, so yeah, now this is it. Now okay, it's giving an error which says function state mutability can be restricted to view. Okay, so the same concept, it says we can use a view because in this case we are using view, and in this case we are not using pure, because view the global variables are stored in blockchain and they are called as state variables. So block is a state variable where, so when it is being used from the blockchain, we'll name it as view rather than naming it as pure. Go ahead and deploy. So what is this? What is this? This is nothing but a Unix timestamp. If you don't know what is a Unix timestamp, you can just go ahead and Google, and you'll simply understand what is a Unix timestamp. We can also try using other variables which are block dot number, which would give the block number, and we can also try message dot sender. So basically this would give the value, the address of the sender who is sending the particular message, and block dot number would give you the block number. Now there's an error which says return this, but the number of arguments declared are only one. So we need to declare all of the values which are being returned. So block number would be uint, whereas message.sender would be a address. So address is a new data type which is supported in Solidity, which we will be looking in the upcoming videos. Now we can go ahead and deploy. You'll see when you do calculate, it simply says the timestamp, it says the block number, and also the address of the particular sender. That's all for global variables. Please try to practice it yourself. You'll have a better understanding of how things work. If you have any doubts, you can comment in the comment section. And if you want any specific topic which you want me to cover, you can also comment that. I'll try to cover that as well. Thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe for more.